Hi guys, welcome back to Intellectual Literature. This is Kauri. Today we are going to study UGC NET December 2023 PYQs, 10 PYQs. Okay, let's go. First one, who among the following is the earliest available Indian dramatist? Your options are Bhavabuddhi, Kalidas, Basha, Rajashekhar. Correct answer is Basha. Why Basha is correct? Basha is the one of the earliest and most prominent Indian playwrights in Sanskrit, whose plays are available today. He lived roughly 2nd century BC to 2nd century CE. His plays like Swapna Vasavadatta, Pratyanyagandrayana were discovered much later, but they are older than Kalidasa works. Even Kalidasa refers to Basha, which proves Basha came earlier. His best work, Swapna Vasudeva Datta, means the dream of Vasavadatta, depicts a king losing and then regaining his kingdom from husband. The 3rd century AD, writer Basha adopted the themes of heroism and romantic love from India's two great epics, Ramayana and Mahabharata. Now, why these other options are wrong. Bhavabuddhi, he lived from 8th century CE. His major works, Uttra Ramacharitra, Malati Madhava. He himself admired Kalidasa, so clearly he is not the earliest dramatist. Second option, Kalidasa. He lived from 4th to 5th century CE. He is famous for Abhinana Sakuntalam Mehadutta. Though very early and celebrated, he came after Basha. References in Kalidasa's work suggest awareness of earlier dramatist. So, he is not the earliest. Rajashekhar. He lived from 9th to 10th century BC, 10th century CE, court poet of Gurjara Pratihas, much later than all others. So, in short, in nutshell, Basha is the earliest available Indian dramatist. Kalidasa, Bhavabuddhi and Rajashekhar belongs to later periods. Next question. Second one. Edgar Allan Poe is often called as the originator of the short story as an established genre. He defined the prose tale as. Your options are a narrative which can be read at one sitting of from half an hour to 2 hours. A narrator which can be read within 5 minutes or less. A narrator that can be read at one sitting of from 1 hour to 4 hours. A narrator that may be concluded and enjoyed in the single spell of less than half an hour. Correct answer is option A. A narrator which can be read at one sitting of from half an hour to 2 hours. Why option A is correct? Edgar Allan Poe explains the idea of prose tale in his essays, especially the philosophy of composition and reviews. His key concept is unity of effect. To perceive this unity, the work must be read in one sitting, and Poe specifies the ideal duration as 30 minutes to 2 hours. This definition becomes foundational for the modern short story as a genre. Edgar Allan Poe is often called the originator of the short story as an established genre. Edgar Allan Poe was a 19th century American short story writer, poet, critic and editor who is famous for his cultivation of mystery and the macabre. Why other options are wrong? 5 minutes or less. this is too short. Poe never limited prose tales to such a extreme brevity. Sounds more like a flash fiction, not Pope's concept. 1 hour to 4 hours, that is too long for Poe's idea of unity of effect. He believed longer works break emotional intensity. Next, less than half an hour, that is too short also. Poe does not restrict the prose tales to under 30 minutes. He explicitly allows up to 2 hours. In nutshell, Poe defined the prose tale as a narrative readable in one sitting, ideally lasting from half an hour to 2 hours to ensure unity of effect. Let's move on to the next question. Arrange the following sequence in which the following works were published. Your options are Culture and Society, Culture and Anarchy, To Hell with Culture, Studies in Dying Culture, Notes towards the Definition of Culture. And the correct answer, in this question, none of the given combination is correct. NCA has dropped this question. This is Culture Studies Chronology question. The correct answer is B, D, C, E, A. Here only B starts in this option only. The chronological sequence of given works as per the publication. Culture and Anarchy, it was published on 1869, was written by Matthew Arnold. Studies in a Dying Culture, it was written by Christopher Caldwell. It was published on 1938. To Hell with Culture was written by George Orwell. This is an essay and it was published on 1941. Notes towards the Definition of Culture was written by T.S. Eliot. It published on 1948. Culture and Society was written by Raymond Williams and this work was published on 1958. So, you must read these work in detail. In nutshell, any correct chronology of culture text must begin with Matthew Arnold, Culture and Anarchy, because this work is the first work. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Choose the correct option question. In New Historist reading of Dalit writing. Your options are Dalit writing does not essentialize Indian society, culture and identity. Dalit writing has infected the immanent meta-narratives. There is no single location of Dalit writing. Dalit writing is only a political category. Dalit writing is not grounded in history. We will study in detail of this question. The correct answer is option A, B and C. This one A, B and C only correct option. Okay, let's see the detailed explanation why these options are correct. First, we talk about New Historism principles. New Historism means literature is shaped by history, power structures, multiple voices and culture, counter narratives. In the reference to the New Historist, reading of Dalit writing statement A, B, C are correct. These are options. These options are only correct. Okay. Now analyze each statement. Dalit writing does not essentialize Indian society, culture and identity. Why this is correct? Dalit writing challenges fixed or essential ideas of Indian culture. It exposes social hierarchy and diversity. This matches New Histories' emphasis on plurality and contesting dominant narratives. Second option, Dalit writing has inflected the immanent meta-narratives. Dalit writing questions dominant grand narratives like caste, harmony or cultural unity. It revises and challenges mainstream historical narratives, strongly fits new historist thinking. And third option, there is no single location of Dalit writing. Dalit literature emerges from multiple regions, languages and experiences. New historism supports multiple perspectives rather than a single center. And why other options are wrong? Dalit writing is political but not only political, rather it was a literature of social category. Here they mentioned Dalit writing is only a political category. No, Dalit writing is also social, cultural and autobiographical and artistic. Option E, Dalit writing is not grounded in history. This is also wrong. Dalit writing is deeply rooted in historical oppression and lived experience. New historism stresses historical grounding. Okay. Dalit writing was grounded in history as the prominent works emerged in the colonial and post-colonial period, and it has the narratives of exploitation and discrimination for the centuries. The prominent writers of this genre are, this is your extra information, Joy T. Plu, Namdeo Dasal, Om Prakash Valmiki. In nutshell, new historism usually supports multiple voices, historical grounding, challenging dominant narratives. Our fifth question, how many major forms of drama have been described by Bharata in his manual of dramaturgy? Your options are 7, 3, 4, 10. The correct answer is option D, 10. This is a Bharata's Natya Shastra question. This is a classical work. Why 10 is correct? Bharata in his ancient Sanskrit treatise Natya Shastra, the science of dramaturgy, describes 10 major forms of drama. That is known as Dasarupakas. Natya Shastra is a detailed treatise and handbook on dramatic art that deals with all aspects of classical Sanskrit theatre. These include various types of dramatic performance. Each form has its own distinct structure, theme and style. They are Nataka, Prakarana, Bana, Prahasana, Dima, Vyayoga, Samavarka, Vitti, Anka, Ithamrika. You read this. These are treated as the principal major forms of Sanskrit drama. Why 7 is wrong? Why this option is wrong? Some later critics loosely refer to seven prominent forms, but Bharata himself lists 10 only. We studied detail also in this question is done here. Let's move on to the next question. Being a white man, in short, was a very considerate manner of being in the world, a way of talking, hold of reality, language and thought. What does the theorist signify by the term white man here? Your options are a dominating man, a megalomaniac, a man with double consciousness, a form of colonial authority. The correct option is a form of colonial authority. This quote is from Frantz Fanon's Black Skin, White Mask. Why option D is correct? Fanon uses white man as a symbolic position of power, not just biological identity. It represents colonial dominance, control over language, thought, reality and meaning. Being in the world here means a epistemological and ideological authority created by colonialism. So, white man here he describes colonial authority or hegemonic position. There was a time between early 17th century to mid 20th century when nearly all the world was colonized by white people. They are Europeans. Now let's see why other options are wrong. a dominating man. This is too general and vague. The question asks for a theoretical meaning, not a personality trait. A megalomaniac. Megalomaniac means a person who has an obsessive belief in their own importance, power and greatness. So, this is psychologically incorrect. Fanon is concerned with the functioning of colonial power structures rather than individual mental disorders. A man with double consciousness. This is also incorrect. This double consciousness belongs to W.E.B. Du Bois and refers to the colonized subject, not the colonizer. Reading notes. In post-colonial theory, white man signifies a structural position of colonial power and authority, not an individual identity. Let's move on to the 7th question. Prose romance precede the emergence of novel as a popular literary genre. Which text among the following fall under the category of prose romance? Your options are the Pilgrim Progress and the Spectator, Orinoco and the Fairlit, Pamela and Clarissa, Amila and Ferdinand, Count Fatho. The correct answer is option B, Orinoco and the Fairlit. Why this option is correct? We see detail. Arthur Ben's Orinoco, it was published on 1688 and the Fairlit was published on 1888 are classic examples of prose romance. Prose romance typically features extraordinary events, exotic settings, intense passions, that means love, betrayal, violence, heroic or sensational characters. These works precede the realist novel and still retain romance conventions even though they are written in prose. Orinoco or the Royal Slave. This other name is Royal Slave. It was published on 1888. It deals with eponymous hero, Orinoco's life, love, rebellion and execution. The Fairlit, it was published on 1688, a novella by Arthur Ben, delves into the stage story of Miranda, a charming and dangerous femme fatale with a deranged capacity for murder and mayhem. Hence, both the texts are clearly fall with prose romance. Why other options are wrong? The Pilgrim Progress and the Spectator. Pilgrim Progress is a religious allegory and the Spectator is a periodical essays. So, these two are also not prose romance. Pamela and Clarissa, both are by Samuel Richardson. These are epistolary novels, not prose romance. Mark the rise of the modern novel, not its precursor. Amila and Ferdinand Court Fathom. Amila is a realistic novel. Ferdinand Court Fathom is a picaresque novel, belong to the mature novel tradition. This is your ready note one-liner. Arthur Ben's Orinoco and Fairlit are prose romance that predate and prepare the ground for the English novel. So, move on to the next question. Our 8th question is a literary device question. Hyperbole, metonymy, synecdoche, periphrasis. Okay, your answer is option D. Here, option D. Hyperbole. Hyperbole means deliberate exaggeration. It used for emphasizes or humor. Example, I have told you 1,000 times. Okay. Next question, metonymy. Metonymy replaces a thing with something closely associated with it. The name changes but the meaning stays connected. The crown for the king. Next one, This synecdoche is when a part stands for the whole or whole for part. It is a special type of metonymy. Example, all hands on deck. Hands means sailors. Periphrases means speaking indirectly or using a roundabout expression, often used to sound elevated or polite. The king of beast for lion. This is the word memory tips. Hyperbole means height. Hyper height means exaggeration. Then metonymy means meaning by association. Synecdoche means slice or part whole. Periphrases a prolonged expression. This is next move on to our 10th question. Which work of Francis Bacon explains the new logic or inductive method of reasoning? Your options are Apophthegms, the history of Henry VII, Novum Organum, De Augmentis, Scientiarum. The correct answer is option C. Why option C? Novum Organum is correct. Francis Bacon's Novum Organum was published on 1620. It is a philosophical work written in Latin. The title refers to Aristotle's work Organum, which was his treatise on logic and syllogism. In Novum Organum, Bacon details a new system of logic or inductive method of reasoning. This is now known as the Baconian method. Francis Bacon's Novum Organum is the most important philosophical and scientific work. It explains a new logic based on induction, opposing Aristotelian deductive logic, Blind's reliance on syllogism. The work lays the foundation of the Baconian inductive method. It emphasizing observation, experimentation, gradual generalization. The title deliberately contrasts with Aristotle Organon, signaling a new approach to reasoning. Why other options are wrong? Apophthegms is a collection of short stories, short sayings and anecdotes, literary and moral in nature, not about logic. The history of Henry VII is a historical prose work, deals with English history, not philosophy or method. De Argumentis Scientiarum is discuss the classification and advancement of knowledge. While referred to learning, it does not systematically explain the inductive method like Novum Organum. This is your ready one-liner. Francis Bacon's Novum Organum formulates the inductive method of reasoning, replacing Aristotelian deductive method. This is our 10th question, last question of this video. According to Greek mythology, who is a Psyche in John Keats' Ode to Psyche? Your options are a mortal, Cupid, a immortal woman, Venus. Correct answer is A, mortal. Ode to Psyche is a poem by John Keats. It was published on 1819. The poem is first of his 1819 odes, which includes She was a mortal woman. Why this option is correct? In Greek mythology, Psyche is born a mortal woman of extraordinary beauty. She is the daughter of king. Her beauty provokes Venus' jealousy. Cupid falls in love with Psyche and secretly marries her. After many trials, Psyche is finally granted immortality, but she begins as a mortal. In Keats' Ode to Psyche, the speaker addresses Psyche at the moment when she is still not fully worshipped as a goddess, and her story reflects her mortal origins. Why other options are wrong? Cupid is Psyche's lover, not Psyche herself. An immortal woman, Psyche becomes immortal later, but she is originally mortal. The question asks, according to Greek mythology, who is Psyche? Which point to her original identity, not her later deification. This will be true only after her transformation, so it's secondly contextual. Venus. Venus is the jealous goddess who persecutes Psyche. This is your one-liner in Greek mythology, and Keats ode to Psyche. Psyche is a mortal woman who later attains immortality. So, thank you for watching. Please do subscribe my channel, give like, comment, share this to your friends who really want this video. This is December 2023 PYQ analyzing. Okay, tata, bye bye.